Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Fractal R4. And yes, I did say R4 and not R3 because this is the new and updated case. Now, from a personal point of view, the bar for this case is really high because I was a big fan of the R3 to the point of I still am. My home server is actually in an R3, which I'm going to be using in the later part of this video because where I've got one of the cases already built up, I can put the R4 and the R3 side by side, so that's what I'm going to be doing. It'll also give us a good way to be able to compare all the differences and everything like that, and we can, basically, if I say that's a bit wider than the old one was, I can show you both of them. So that is all good. The other thing is, really we need to talk about the specs and stuff. It's going to be coming in around the around the £80 mark from what I'm hearing from Fractal themselves and also the retailers. So it's going to be coming in at the same sort of money. That did just go really blurry then, didn't it? It's going to be coming in around the same sort of money as the old one. I've actually got a black one here at the moment, but there will be white ones when they do get released to the stores and everything like that, so don't worry. It's just the production samples that they had ready to go out to reviewers, the white one wasn't quite ready yet. But what we need to do is bring you all in for a good look, which means I need to move the camera. It also means I need to grab my remote. So it's now time for me to shush my mouth and let's get this review cracking. Righty-heighty, as ever, we will start at the top and at the front. So we have microphone, headphone ports, reset switch, power switch, which obviously like the old one does light up with the light kind of going down the front there as well. Then we've also got two USB 3s, which has an internal motherboard header on the end, and two USB 2s. So then we've got two different USB headers there. I know some of you are instantly going to say, why didn't they make them all USB 3s? But if you make them all USB 3s, I don't know many motherboards with two internal USB 3 headers that are easily accessible on the edge of the board yet. And the USB 3 header does only support two at full speed, so that's kind of the reason there. The plastic does look different colour to the metal here, but it's just because of the bleaching from my studio lights. If I was to turn one off, they do match. At the top of the roof, as before, there is a mount, or two mounts rather, and they're 120mm and 140mm. We'll show you inside because they are blanked off at the moment as well. But you can have those two, and it's the hexagon mesh, as the same as the R3. I actually do really like that design as well. The fact that it's kind of stamped into the roof and not just some, mesh bolted on from underneath is a really nice touch. I'm just going to move the camera because I need to show you the front panel. Right then, onto the front panel. Just so you know, the light is a bit weird because I've got, as you're looking at it, I've got all the lights off to the right hand side of the case so that we can light up the door better once we open it, because yes, that's right, it does open. But the front panel, if I zoom you in, you can see it's got what looks like a brushed aluminium or a brushed metal appearance, but the door is plastic. Sometimes that might look cheap. It doesn't look too bad on this. I'm not going to say it looks amazing, but it doesn't look bad either. It's quite shiny as well, so it does give it kind of almost like an anodized kind of look to it, but not so shiny that it's glossy. Is a bit of a fingerprint magnet though. I don't know whether it will pick up, but anyway, so we can open the door. Then at the top we can see that we've got two optical bays which are vented. Trying to get that in the light, there we go, vented. Although, let's face it, we don't really use optical bays anymore, do we, peeps? These are generally for accessories. I don't use optical drivers at all. To the right hand side here, there's a fan controller, and it will do 5 volt, 7 volt and 12 volt. And on the inside there are three, that's 1, 2, 3 fan headers that you can attach to it. If you need more, obviously you can always use splitters and stuff like that, but there's 3 wired directly into this, and it's powered by just a normal Molex. Now if we move down a little bit, I'm just going to bring a little bit more light up, although it's not really making a blind bit of difference, is it? Oh dear, what a mission this is going to be today. No, I've just made things about 100 times more. There we go. Right, anyway, this panel here, click, click. It's on a hinge, so it comes down. Can't pull it off, see, and then it exposes the fans underneath. Now it comes fitted with 140 in the front. You can put a second one down here. Also, you can fit 120s in there should you want to swap them out. Now, there is a dust filter here, so this hinge section makes it really nice and easy that you can just get in there and hoover the dust filters out, so that's all good. There's also a little button up here, so that you can, if you want, remove this whole section, and then it exposes the fans on the back, so you can get in there, change your fans out if you would like. So right, this is me being a complete retard trying to do this with one hand, but I'm making this look a lot more difficult than it actually is. There we go. Actually, there's something. Right, Thomas. There was a fan cable stopping me from fitting it. Have we got it now? Is the fan cable back in? No. Right. So, I'm a bit of an idiot. I did make that look like a mission, but it was just a fan cable that was kind of poking up from around the outside. Obviously, when you wire this in with yourself, you'll need to kind of keep this kind of thing, because I always keep fan cables really tight. And if you have it too tight, you're not going to be able to get this out. But I would have thought, but once you fit it, you're not going to want to get it out too much. But if you do want to slide it out a little bit, you can then remove the dust filter should you want to go off and hoover it or whatever else. You can also see the fan underneath with its white blades, and we can also refit said filter, and you can see that time it went in and out rather lovely. So I just made a right meal of it the first time round. So we put that back up there a little bit. If we rotate the case round, something else I wanted to talk about is the venting down the side, all the way down the side here. It's on the other side as well, and at the bottom there's more of a handle than anything, but there is a cutout there anyway. So we've looked at that. I'm just quickly going to move across, swing the light back round. Oh, hang on. Do that up. There we go. So, lights back round. You can see on the side panel that you've got the mesh again is the same hexagon mesh as the roof. 140mm or 120mm fan, and it's also got the blanking plate on the other side, which is what I will show you later when we get to the inside of the case. You can remove it. It's got sound deadening on it as well, but I'm going into a little bit of the detail that we need to do when we get round to it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to swing the case around. In fact, I'm going to keep the camera where it is. We'll just move it. So at the top, you can see more of that hexagon mesh. That will be for air at the top of the case. If you're not using the roof fans, that'll be a good place for the hot air to be able to exhaust its way out. Obviously, it gives you a little bit more airflow. We have on the back a 140mm fan that fitted, comes with the case, but you can also fit a 120 in there should you wish. Now, the 140 in the back is the first sign that the R4 is a little bit wider than the R3, because the R3 had a 120mm max in the back of the case. The R4 has that 140 extra, so it does give you a little bit more depth, and like I said, it's the first hint. We will go into that a little bit more. When we go down a little bit further, something else that's new is we've got 7 PCIs here, or 7 expansion slots, but we've got an 8th here, so it's 7 plus 1. Have to admit, I'm not really a fan of the plus ones. People will say, well, what do you use them for? Some motherboards come with like extra USB 2 things that you can put in the back and stuff here. I have to admit, I really don't like them. I'd sooner that had just been a blank panel. But each to their own. If we go down a little bit further, Power supply you can obviously have mounted either way, because you can see that we've got the second set of mounts should you want to use them. And that's really it for the back of the case, other than this removable, and I can't get my hand to it, there we go, this removable dust filter for the power supply, and for the extra fan that you can put in the floor that we'll look at in a minute, but there's an extra removable dust filter there. So only one thing for it now, and that's for me to move the case around a little bit, and we'll whip the back panel off. So looking at the back of the case, one of the things I've not overly tried to make this super tidy, because a lot of you guys don't. But what I wanted to kind of point out to you is there's a few things really. We've got a nice CPU cutout, that's all well and good. We've got grommets for the cables, but we'll talk about those when we get to the other side, because it'll be easier to see. One of the main features on the back of the case, that they had made it a lot wider. There's 26 millimeters of, now just to give you a kind of a visual representation, 26 millimeters is kind of between my two fingers there. It's a fair amount of distance. It's pushing on an inch really that we've got of space for the cables. Now I've used the R3 a lot, and I didn't find personally that the cables were a problem with the back of the old case, because there's loads of these lovely cable mounting points so that you can pull stuff up and zip tie it all in. Now I could have done a much tidier job with this build. The trouble is, when you do this so often, is you don't necessarily always want to, you know, spend an hour cable tidying something when you're going to make a case video and then have to take it all apart again. So I've done, you know, what most of you are doing, and done an average job. You could do an insanely tidy job with this, you really could. There's obviously a lot of room around the back of the hard drive cages here, so you've got loads of room that you can get all your cables and stuff in, and also hide more cables up here as well should you want to. Something else which is kind of strange is here and here and then here and here you can mount two solid state drives. There's 8 screw holes there, so 2 solid state drives. But the problem with that really is you have to bolt them in before you put your motherboard in. So if you do, you know, want to change it, upgrade it or anything like that, it can become a little bit of a mission that if you have screwed them into the back of the motherboard tray, then have to change them. But obviously if you're going to be doing it and it's going to be a long-term thing, actually having some decent mounts on the back of the motherboard tray that you can make it all nice and tidy and forget your solid state drives even there is pretty brilliant. These points as well would be great if you end up using this as a home server and having all of these completely full with mechanicals, that you can actually keep your solid state out the way and it doesn't necessarily have to encroach on any of your main mechanical hard drive storage space. Something that we do need to talk about is the thing that the R3 was famed for was the sound deadening in the side panels. And if we kind of go down, you can see it's got the same bitumen coating. If we zoom right in, hopefully the camera, there we go, it's all right with it. It's picked up the fabric, so it's bitumen and then it's coated with fabric as well. And what we'll do is we'll just bounce off to the corner so that you can see. There we go, lovely and focused in. So it's a thick bitumen which gives it a really nice weight to the panels, but also means it's brilliant for sound deadening, and that cloth just gives it a slightly more quality feel. I definitely prefer this bitumen coating to the cheapy foamy kind of horrid sound deadenings that some other manufacturers use. But like I said, not only is it bitumen, but it's got that nice cloth texture to the top as well, so it's got a coating on it as well, which gives it that extra air of quality. So sorry for my deep breathing today, it's actually quite warm in here, but anyway, so we come back out, let the camera kind of sort the light out, there we go. So that's the back. What I'm going to do now is stick the back panel on, turn the camera off, and we'll whiz it round and we'll have a look at what's inside. Right then peeps, our first look at the inside of the case. But first things first, what I want to do is draw your attention to this. I mentioned about the blanks in the roof and in the side panel door. That is it. There's a hard plastic base, then you've got about 10 millimeters of foam, but the foam is covered with the same cloth that the bitumen is, and it does give it a nice quality feel. It's quite a springy foam. Now that's a 140 millimeter mount there that it does blank, but obviously you can, if you want to remove it, you can put a 120 or a 140 on, and the exact same covers in the roof as well. So you've got a nice bit of sound deadening up in the roof as well as, you know, everywhere else. But just to kind of zoom you in even further, you can see that it's that nice fabric on top of the, not too far, Thomas. It's that nice fabric on top. Oh dear, I'm having a bad day. There we go, right, stop, don't touch. It's the nice fabric on top of that foam. You can see the plastic base there as well. So, zoom out, let the camera sort itself out. There we go, right. So, inside the case, we can see that we've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 3.5 inch optical bay mounts there. They're pretty simple. They're white. They've got rubber slots in the bottom, so they're damped. But the good thing is, it wasn't until I started using it. Oh, that's actually plugged in. I've got one in the bottom, but the rubber damper does actually touch the runner. So it stops the cage from rattling around inside, and that's with all of them. It's not just when you've got a hard drive fitted. The actual rubber mount there actually does touch the runner when it's in the cage, and it just makes that, you know, everything that little bit tighter and less likely to rattle. It's actually brilliant. It's a really tiny thing that, you know, you normally wouldn't really notice, but I picked up on it and I really like it. Now, continuing on from the hard drive cages, well, not from the hard drive cages, but with it, 2 thumb screws you can remove, and you can take the hard drive cage out altogether. Now, when you do that, it obviously gives you a lot more room that you can fit bigger graphics cards in. This is a 7970. Your bigger graphics cards are only really going to be 590s, 6990s. At this present moment in time anyway, or some of the, you know, the much older cards, but it does give you a lot more room should you need it. It still means that you've got 3 mechanical bays at the bottom that you can use, but even if you've not got a massive graphics card, you may want to remove that section just so that you've got some more direct airflow coming from the front fans, which is, you know what I mean, it's not a bad thing there really at all. Now, the hard drive cage can be mounted in the other way. Now I can't, I can do it, but I need to remove a couple of the bays. Obviously, if you're starting to turn them round for some more direct cooling, sorry, it's just catching on power supply cables, because obviously I've got a big graphics card in. Now you can do that. Now the bottom section you can turn round as well. You just need to change some screws in there, and you're going to need to change the plate around, but do you know what I mean, it can be done. Anyway, you can do that. That also gives you some more direct airflow over the case, even if you just had one in there. As you see with the 7970, I did have to remove a couple of the slots just so that we could get it fitted. You can also hear then, it does go in with a nice clunk because of the springs on the end of the hard drive bays. So that's all nice and good. So hard drive cage covered, we can spin it round, jobs are good in. You can spin the bottom one round as well if you want to, jobs are good in. So not too many dramas there. Obviously if you want to be running all hard drives and have them all spun round, graphics cards will become an issue. But if we're really talking about spinning, you know, cages around and all that kind of thing, I would have thought that you're talking home servers and stuff, and you know, having a massive graphics card isn't really going to be top of the pops. So next thing, there is a 140mm and 120mm mount in the floor which is dust filtered. This is all well and good, but as you can see with my power supply, as always, in fact I might need a little bit of extra light down in the bottom there. As you can see, I've got the fan facing up, which is kind of, it's the norm for me. It's the way I do things. I'll just zoom you in so that you can have a look. It might be a bit easier. So you can see what I'm talking about. Now, the thing that I'm referring to is the cables. You can see, because I've got the fan facing up, the cables go over the top of the fan mount. I don't like using these fan mounts anyway. It's just a personal thing. I just don't like the look of it. But if you wanted to fit a fan here, you'd have to have your power supply pulling air in from the bottom. Now, there's no right or wrong way to mount your power supply. I've had this argument with people so many times. It doesn't make a blind bit of difference to the way that the power supply works or anything like that. If it affects your power supply, having it this way round, you've bought a crap one. I always put it this way for looks. It doesn't matter with my fan. But if you do feel the need that you have to fit a fan here, as you can see, you're probably going to have to put your power supply round the other way. So that is just a really kind of minor, picky feature that I wanted to mention with this. What I'm going to do now is just move the case a bit. So I'm going to turn the camera off, just so that we can get a better angle on the CPU cooler. Right then, so because of the 140mm fan in the back, you can see that the case is quite a bit wider. Now, you can, with the R3, you could run an HD14 in your case just about. I'm not going to say it was tight in there, but it was about as big as you could go. With the 140mm in the back, gives you that extra room, and you can see that there's plenty of clearance around the top of the HD14 there. You could probably fit a silver arrow in there. I'm not sure whether the Thermalright Archon would go in there. It would be tight. Would have thought it would go. But again, you'll be on the limits of the case then. Should be fine though, but there's not many of you really going to be worrying about using that. Talking about heat sinks, everyone's always going to say to me, can you get a H100 in there? And the answer is no, because the fan mounts in the roof do not support the 15mm spacing that you'll need for the H100. But in all honesty, peeps, it's really, I don't really see that as being too much of a problem, because kind of expanding on from the fan mountings in the roof, there's not enough room on the inside of the case either, which is the next thing that we really need to cover. Right then, so it's a little dark, but you get the gist. You can see above the motherboard tray there. Now, from the top of the motherboard to the very top of the roof, there's about 40mm of room, maybe 42mm of room. Now what we need to consider is H100 radiators, 25mm thick. Fans, 25mm thick, so that's 50mm that we're going to need. It would be incredibly tight in there. The roof doesn't support bolting all 8 of the screws in anyway. You could get 2 in if you wanted, but that would mean you'd have to fit one fan first, put it up in, and then bolt it through. Now, some motherboards will be possible, but because of the way motherboards are laid out and what RAM you're using and all, there's so many infinite variables there, the odd 1 or 2 occasions you might be able to get away with it. But as a rule of thumb, for kind of to generalise it, it's not going to be able to be supported. Please don't send me messages, will it fit? Because obviously I've not got all of these different products to be able to properly measure up. If you want to risk it, you're going to have to risk it yourself and work around it if you can't get it in. But like I said, as a rule of thumb, H100 in the top of this thing, no go. Water cooling radiator in the top of this thing, really not going to be worth it. So that's where I'm gonna sit with this. Like I said, if you think you can do it with your own kit, that's up to you, but please don't ask me, because I'm not going to be able to advise you on it. I will just say it's not possible. So we can see at the top there are 2 lots of grommets. We zoom in a little bit better, you can see you've got one on the left hand side for the 8-pin power, and then you've got another one there which is great for passing your CPU fans through if you wanted, or extra cables through. There's a large one at the side there, as you can see, and if we come down, there's a second one, so there's 2 down the sides, and then there is another one for the power supply. And one thing that I will say that they've done compared to the R3 is the grommets are much better. Grommets with the R3 were a bit of a pain in the arse. They were always coming out. These ones, they've got a much thicker lip around the outside. They're made from slightly thicker rubber as well, and they don't come out all the time. So that is a massive, massive positive there, without a shadow of a doubt. So, while we've got the case on the side like that, give you another look at it with all the hardware in. We've covered everything now. So the only thing there is to do is to put this side by side with the R3, so we can have a quick look at the size differences and just a really quick look, which means I now have to turn my server off, which is a bit of a pain in the bum. But I'm going to do that, get the camera set up, put the cases side by side, just so that we can have a quick look at width and height and stuff like that, and then we will move on to a conclusion. Right then, so this is my, on the right hand side, that's my own personal R3, which I use for my server. And then on the right hand side, that's obviously the R4. You can see they're both sat on the desk. Now, we zoom in, you can see straight away that the R4 is slightly taller, only just, but it is there. Now, move the camera back, I do apologise about the shaking. Width wise, I've got my tape handy. Now, width wise, the R4 is 233 millimeters wide, and the R3 is 208 millimeters wide. Getting ahead of myself. So yeah, 208 millimeters wide for the R3, and then 222 millimeters wide for the R4. Now, depth wise, there's probably about, including the front panel, it's 523 for the R3 depth, and then 525 really for the R4. So there's really not much in it, it's just the width and a little bit on the height, and I'd probably say that you're looking about 12 or 14 millimeters height difference. But that's really essentially it. There's not really anything else in it, but I just thought you might like to see the difference. Also from the roof we can have a look. I'll bring you in. Obviously mine's all set up, well, I've got a fan in the roof there as well, but it really is just a tiny little difference in height and then a little bit difference in width. And just so that we can see with the doors open, I'm not sure what the lights are going to be like, but I'll show you. Oh, mine's open. So the doors there, you can see that we've got a one-piece door for the R4, and then we've got a two-piece door for the R3. And then as far as dust filtering, we've got a one-piece, and that's obviously removable for the R4. And then with the R3, if we open it, crikey, it needs a little bit of a hoover. You can see that the fan filters are fixed and screwed, and they're only 120s as well. So it's that's a little bit of a difference there for you as well. So 140s in the front versus 120s, much easier to remove on the R4. With the R3, it was screws. So yeah, that's about it. There's not really much more for me to say to kind of compare between the two. I'm quite looking forward to seeing the white R4. But anyways, it is now time for me to move on to the conclusion. Right then peeps, moving on to the conclusion. Now I have been in a proper dilemma with this. Now it's going to be coming in around the £80 mark. So the dilemma really with me has been the award. Now, kind of, there's two sides of this story with me. There's the kind of, there's the objective kind of like person inside me, looking at all the different features, and that side of me wants to give it a gold award, which is what I'm going to do. because for around the £80 mark, it's really, really good. Obviously we've got it's been upgraded to 140mm fans in the front, but you can still use 120s if you want. The dust filters in there, you can kind of get in there and remove them really easily should you want to, although with dust filters you just kind of get in there with a hoover, don't you, and it does the trick. The sound deadening is brilliant. I didn't power it up in the video, but that's because it is really, really quiet. When I used the R3 previously for some of the competition builds that I did, you can make them so quiet if you put your mind to it that the only way you know it's on is by the little light on the top. And the competition winners will, quite literally, they will confirm that they thought they were broken, they were so quiet. It's generally the way I work with mine. My server now is on again, and apart from the little bit of a hum from the hard drives when it first started up, I now don't know that thing's on. So with the 140s in the front, you're going to be able to, reduce fan speed, still get airflow through, especially with the 140 in the back as well. There's lots of things there that you can do to make sure that you still get good airflow, but keep it quiet. The hard drive cage, the fact you can remove it, brilliant. Rotating it, I've got to admit, I'm not really a fan of that. I don't see the point. If you could get it round the other way and it fit around the hard drive cage, which was something that I did consider, and I'm just going to do it now because I'm just kind of thinking to myself, have you missed that? Now I know I've checked it, but when you go to put it in that way, one of the things I want to say is there's a tab there, so you can't put it that way around, and these cages are too big. So you have to do it the other way round, and then all of your cables and stuff are really close to the fan. So I don't rate that idea at all. I think it's just a little bit of a gimmicky thing, to be honest with you. Being able to turn it round, as far as I'm concerned, really hasn't really been thought out that well. And the only way you'd be able to get your hard drive cages out would be to remove the whole cage. So it would become a mission every time you wanted to do something. So I actually don't like that side of it. But the fact that you can remove it, it's brilliant. It's just the rotating thing doesn't really work for me. As far as having it like that for your server and stuff, that's really the way that you want to be running it anyway. Makes it so much easier. Yes, you do have to take the back panel off so that you can get to the other cables, but again, that's not really too much of a problem. Being able to take the hard drive cage out makes it more of a gamer case friendly though, because you can whiz that out and then you've got access to be able to put bigger graphics cards in or better airflow. People did say with the R3 that it was a little bit warmer, but one of the things is, especially when you've got loads of hard drives and stuff in, yes, obviously airflow is going to be slightly restrictive, and that's why they've done that idea, so that you can open it up. You can get plenty of airflow down through these front vents. Obviously it's going to be slightly more restrictive than just an open fan kind of drawing air in straight away kind of idea, but this is all kind of ways to try and make this rig quiet, which is what the system's all about. It's building that silent rig that you can have running 24/7, forget about, or you just want a really, really quiet rig. The R3 was massively popular with kind of like studio rigs where people were just making, ridiculously quiet rigs. I've tested the R3 100% passive before with one of those massive no fan coolers. Again, works fine. So it really depends on what you want to do with it. Grommets being updated, lovely, brilliant. The width being updated on the business side of the case, I thought was lovely. It does make things a little bit easier for your taller CPU coolers and stuff like that. Also, it means you can get a 140 in the back, which again, if you do it right, means that you can have a quieter system. The extra width on the back of the case, a lot of people will like if you've got a non-modular power supply, but I have to admit, I never had an issue with the old one. So it will just make it a little bit easier for those of you out there that just want to, bang your rig together quick and are not too fussed about what's going on around the back end of the case. So it'll make it easier for you. I may look at doing kind of modding guides with this and stuff in the future, but at this present moment in time where we're so close to the NDA and we're trying to get things done and ready, I don't want to look at, as far as that's concerned, too much, but it does appear to be room in the front end of the case. But it would mean that this is why I don't want to do it now, is you would end up having to do some quite heavy modding to be able to fit anything in there. Again, with the roof H100, it's a no-go. Now, the personal side of me with this, I really liked the R3, and I mean I properly liked the R3. The fact that I actually use one as a 24/7 rig should speak volumes to you. Now, the R4 is really, because of all the size differences, is a brand new case. And I can't help but feel that they've just made it a bit bigger. And I was kind of expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, but I think I was expecting a little bit more. Like I said, I can't put my finger on what I wanted, but maybe, you know, there is that side of me that definitely wanted a little bit more. So it's a brilliant case, but I was kind of, when I saw it, I was just kind of expecting it to be like, and it was a bit like, oh. But that, I think the reasoning behind that is because, like I said, it was a personal thing, and I did like the R3 so much that maybe I was kind of expecting the R4 to go, you know, on that little bit more. But what they've basically done is they've polished a few bits with it. They've made it a bit wider. They've, you know, fitted extra fans, really. The width for the fans is probably the good thing about it. And by being able to remove that front cage, they've made it a little bit more gamer friendly. So with this kind of feature on it, it's kind of opened it up to a new market of people. Before, the R3 was an acceptable gamer case if you were going for a proper quiet, but you could run into problems with the larger graphics cards. This kind of gets rid of, you know, any chance of that, although I did show you, even with this fitted, we've got a 7970 in there. The only other good thing that I really like about this is they have got that kind of fan controller in the front that's kind of built in. With the R3, you had a PCI bracket one that went in the back or up the side here. And it just meant ugly cables and stuff, and that was one of the first things that I kind of binned. So the fact that it's built into the front panel now, that's definitely a thumbs up and a move on from the R3. Now, the reason why I did stay with the gold award is because of all the things that I've kind of said. They've made it more accessible to gamers, so you can have the bigger graphics cards in there. You've got the 140mm fans. £80 isn't really that much for a case in today's market. And the fact that it's so quiet, bitumen coating on the side, 120 and 140 fans, the front is all dust filtered, sound deadened, it's nice and wide, you can get big bits in there. Okay, it's only ATX only. The only real thing, if you're going to start going down that high end kind of malarkey, is going to be the fact that it doesn't really support H100, but H100 it floats in that kind of middle ground between air cooling and water cooling anyway. And there are some amazing air coolers out there now. The NHD14 is still one. The Havoc is another good one. So there's plenty of air cooling options. The water cooling bit, you know, it doesn't have to be the be all and end all. And obviously you can still get ones that mount in the back anyway, should you really want that kind of thing. So that's kind of it, really. I'm really looking forward to seeing the white one. I know I am going to be getting a white one, so if I do get the white one, I probably will end up updating the server. But also, if I get the white one, then that will maybe the time, maybe, not 100%, that I will look at it with a little bit more of an open mind in respect to what you could do with it later on. But yeah, like I said, I don't really know about the personal side of things. I don't know kind of what I was expecting. It's very much the same as the R3 is all I can say, which is never a bad thing, but obviously time's moving on and the R3's been with us quite a while now. I think maybe they could have tried to make it a little bit more modern or something. I don't know what I was expecting, but it's still an epic case. And for 80 quid, it's like now, if it was the R3 and the R4 side by side at the same price and there was a white one, I would go with the R4 just because of the extra fan options and stuff like that. So there is a distinct step forward, and like I said, for 80 quid is still a bloody good case. Definitely the people looking for quiet rigs, if you want a rig that you're going to run 24/7, even if it's your gaming rig, you could use this. It will be slightly warmer than some of the other cases, but if you want to run it super quiet, you're going to be have enough kind of common sense about you that you're going to be able to accept that anyway. You're also going to be the type of person that's not going to be asking me, what will my graphics card run at in this case? Because it's obviously everyone's case and ambient temperatures and all that kind of stuff is all going to be wildly different. But it will be slightly warmer in this case than kind of a gamer case that's got tons of fans in it. But that won't be a problem for you guys out there that obviously do want to be running your rigs quieter. Also, home servers, that kind of thing, dead silent, if not completely silent cases. even with these fans, but if you upgraded them to some of the kind of meatier but still quiet fans, you'd be onto an absolute winner. Now, I know I'm starting to go round and round in circles, but that's it. Fractal R4, OC3D Gold Award winner, should be available in the stores pretty soon. I can't tell you which ones at the moment because I'm making this video before it's even technically been released because of NDAs. But stay tuned, make sure you go to click the link underneath, and if I can find any shops that have got them listed for pre-order or have them in stock, I'll make sure I put the link in the main review. But for now at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.